afternoon, everyone. It's the West Ham Irons channel, and we've got Ian with me. It's been a while, mate. So, yeah, before we get into it, how you been? You been all right?
Yeah, all good, all good. And it's looking positive for a good result of the weekend, isn't it? So everything looks better when we've won.
It does. But obviously, when you look at the table, even after that win, it's very congested in there, mate. And
Oh, yeah.
and also every week, as well as us, one or two of them kind of win as well.
Yep.
And yeah, you can see the next three games, which are kind of top of my head. I think it's Newcastle, Fulham, Arsenal,
Yep.
and yeah, the test gets harder. And if you don't win one game, then you're kind of back down there. I don't want to say back down there again because you are still we still are in there, aren't we?
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy to think that we're only really 11 points behind 11th. You string 3 or 4 wins together, and all of a sudden you're mid-table and you're out the relegation fight. It's crazy, but equally you don't win 3 on a trot, and you are sort of sitting bottom 2, aren't you? It's scary stuff.
Yeah, it is. It is. I mean, before we get into it, I don't know if you want to tell the people, the viewers, about your podcast, what it's called and what it's about, so hopefully they can
Yeah.
tune in on
So
yeah.
we do a podcast every week. Actually, next one will be coming out later on tonight. It's called the FDT TV podcast. You can find us on YouTube, on all your streaming platforms for your podcasts. Look for the big gold cup, and that's us. Alternatively, if you want more sort of generic West Ham stuff, it doesn't come out as often as I'd like, but we'll try to get in some sort of routine. The Bearded Hammer is the place to go for my opinions on West Ham.
The Bearded Hammer sounds good, mate. I was going to go into podcasts. I remember a number of months ago. I haven't got around to it because, yeah, I mean, running a channel takes so much of my time, and even due to David Moyes, mate, because I haven't caught up with you, it's probably the worst time as a fan I can remember. I started supporting in 1983, and this under David, it's sort of, yeah, I thought about not doing it anymore. And I know one channel, American Hammer's channel, Tim. He hasn't done it for many, many months and longer because of David Moyes. He said he won't do it till he's here.
It's hard
So
not to be negative all the time, isn't it? It's horrible to be that in that mindset of I've got nothing positive to say, but
it's got to a point where I don't go that often anymore, and obviously we'll go into it in a minute, but look, like the atmosphere again, it's just dwindling every week in terms of just looks very quiet and not much happening on the pitch. I think we won 1-0, which I kind of covered a bit yesterday, but apart from that, there wasn't many shots on target or off target, no bits of skill, nothing, mate, isn't it, in the game? It's really dull, isn't it?
it's one of those. I mean, we were playing bottom of the table, and usually you like to think that's an easy 3 points. Everyone sort of bashing on bottom of the table, but I think for parts of that match, Southampton actually outclassed us and were the better team. They had more passes, more possession. I don't know how to put a positive spin on it apart from we got 3 points. I don't think that's got anything to do with how Moyes set up. I think that has to do with the players sort of taking control of a decent set piece, and Agard getting his first goal of the season or first goal for the club. But if it was down to Moyes tactically for everything, I think we'd be struggling if they hadn't taken control of themselves a little bit, taken responsibility.
Tactics it can't be because he's still doing the same 4-2-3-1, still playing the same way, quite cautious at home, and then often, as you've seen in various stages in the game, when we do have a chance to attack, very slow in getting numbers up the field. Straight away, I was watching the Newcastle game, mate, and it's sort of telling my dad watching it with him that, yeah, a couple of times they attacked Man United, mate. Even at the end when they were 2-0 up, there were 4 people in the box when you're about to cross it in. I've forgotten, Ian, what that's like where we've had 1 or 2 in the box. So it isn't tactics. It is the same. What is lucky and fortunate mate, is that there are 8-9 clubs who are as bad as us, isn't it, this season?
Yeah. I think that is the only saving grace is we're not the worst out of everybody. There are a few which make us look good on occasion, but any other season I think we would have been rock bottom. It's just one of those strange seasons where everyone's sort of fallen off a cliff a little bit. No one can get any real runs of form going, and that's what's kept us in it.
It has, and also it's been surprises at the both ends of the tables. I mean, I'm surprised to see Leicester there as well. Obviously, a well-run club. Brendan's got a half decent, kind of sort of level in terms of how good he has been in the past. And then when you look at the other side of the table, you've got Fulham, Brentford.
Yeah,
That's really surprising, and it teams like that in there.
yeah.
So again, it tells you. I mean, those teams like Brentford, Brighton, Fulham, they haven't got half as much as money as we've spent and got half the capacity of our ground, that kind of thing. But it just shows you that if you run a certain way, you don't really need a lot of money, isn't it? I mean, look at that. We spent a lot and wasted it, a lot of it.
It's
Well, it looks
it's
at the
one of those.
moment, but
At the beginning of the season, obviously last year in the league, we sort of fell off a cliff, didn't we? And the Europa League run paper over the cracks a little bit. But we didn't strengthen in January. We had a small squad. We went out, spent loads of money on some seemingly decent players. And at the beginning of the season, I was really positive, thinking actually we can push to another level here. We've gone out and recruited fairly well. Obviously, we had a couple of injury problems, didn't we, with players we brought in, as is always the West Ham way. But they've just, I don't know who's made the signings, because if these are the players that Moyes has said, I want to wait until the right person's available, he's bought someone who doesn't know how to play his style of football, and it just really confuses me. If he's made that signing, then he's really rubbish at scouting players. If someone else has given him that player, fair enough, he's tried to slot them in, but you've got to, at some point, try something different. If it's not working, you've got to try something, whether that be tactically, personnel, something you're doing in training. I don't know. There's a number of things, number of tangibles you could change. He just doesn't seem to. It's, this is how I've played for however many hundred of games he's been in the Premier League, and I'm being stubborn with it, and I can't get my head around it.
yeah, I mean, when you look at how long he's been with us, I think he's gone through 7-8 transfer windows. I don't think he's signed anyone in about 3 of them, and then the other 2, they forced him to sign one with a day to go.
Yeah.
So, and then, we've had 2 good years, got to the semis and all that kind of thing, but I think we could have got a bit more out of the team if he had bought. And then obviously, and he was saying in the summer, I've been forced to buy 7 or 8, I didn't want to. But then I'm thinking, you didn't buy anyone in the winter window before that, and you knew that you're going to lose 7-8 players in terms of contracts, and you're going to lose the same amount this summer. And I know you bought Danny Ings in, but you could have bought 1 or 2 more in to make it easy for you, because he thinks there's an issue signing players in the summer. He thinks there's an issue signing players in the winter. I don't like the transfer window, by the way, Ian. I don't like it. I think it should be what it used to be, where you could able to sign up to March. Then they used to lock. It's just that it is madness. The windows are a couple of months at the most, and certainly shorter in the winter. And then who do you sign? And it is what it is. But other clubs seem to do it. I mean, Klopp always gets someone through the door on the first day in the winter window. He's in through the door, right? And
I think with the transfer windows, you know when they start, when they finish, and you know, as a manager, as experienced as he is, he knows where he needs to strengthen, who's not performing, who potentially could move on. Surely, come January 1st or whenever it opens in the summer, all the business should be done then. It should be ready to rock and roll until the registrations can be done. Everything else behind the scenes, there's no reason it shouldn't be done beforehand, and just wait to sign on the dotted line when you're allowed to. It just baffles me that we leave it, and at the last minute go, actually, we've cobbled together this signing that no one's ever heard of from the Bosnian Fifth League. And it's like, okay, every now and again it works out okay, but most of the time it doesn't. Danny Ings was a good signing. He's a proven goal scorer when he can stay fit.
yeah,
But we've got that horrible habit of buying players sort of at the latter part of their career where they can't stay fit. And some of that comes down to the training ground. When you look at ours compared to the rest of the leagues, it's a bit of a scary prospect that we've brought in this guy who's known for injuries, and we're going to bring him in to sort of fill that gap on the table that Jack Wilshere and Andy Harrell used to fill.
I think when you look at Danny Ings, if you look at his appearances the last 5 seasons, it's okay. I think the thing that hits fans is, when Liverpool bought him from Burnley, he was out for at least a couple of seasons. But since then, it's not been bad. But what's frustrating me the most is him playing up front by himself. I'd like to up there, and I think it's fair to say when we've looked at Souček, I mean, he's been all right in some games, but more often than not quite there. I think we could take Souček out and put another one next to Ings, even if it's Antonio. And I'd much prefer that, especially at home, with respect to teams like Southampton, Wolves. I mean, he still sets up so kind of so scared, isn't he? I mean, Southampton didn't even have much up front. Had their centre back missing as well. So it's kind of that kind of thing, wasn't it, for me?
He's appeared. He's here.
Frankie's here. Frankie, our captain, is here. How you doing, mate?
He's not allowed to speak.
audio technology, mate. We were having a nightmare yesterday with Matt from Mexico, and I think he tried 3-4 laptops, cut the different sort of headphones, and it just didn't work out. It is what it is. But yeah, so like you said,
two up top.
Yeah, I mean, I would give it a go. Looking at the last 15, 16 months in the league, what our form's been like. You got to give it a go, especially at home. But he just doesn't do it. And then there's never been a game where he's managed to bring the subs on before the opposition. He just doesn't do it.
Yep.
We've lost Stuart Pearce, Irvine, a couple of others, and Nolan's been a bit more visible recently than before. But there's a large part of the season I didn't really see the backroom team doing much.
Yeah. In fairness, I don't think that's helped that we've lost, say, a couple of key people in that back room at the beginning.
Yeah.
As well as Noble in the change room, sort of bringing up standards. It's one of those that it's a culmination of everything that I think has caused this even worse form than we was in last year.
Yeah, I know. What's frustrated you the most then, Ian? Has it been the manager, or do you think the players can do a bit more? Has it been the transfer dealings? Has it been bit of everything?
It's a little bit of everything. I think the bit that frustrates me the most is Moyes' stubbornness. Now, I was a big proponent for bringing him back. I liked that he had a work ethic, and that it was like, if you're not running, you're not playing. Well, that first time he was here, I thought, well, we shouldn't have got rid of him the first time. But he's come back and he sort of started that, and it sort of dropped off. So I don't know whether he's lost the dressing room or whether it's a case that the players are just like, this isn't going anywhere. We're not enjoying it. When you look at, you mentioned Brentford and Brighton earlier, their players look like they enjoy being on the pitch. They're allowed to pass the ball. They're allowed to a little bit of freedom, it seems. Yet with us, it's you have to play this very systematic way. And if you don't do it, then I'm not happy, and I'm gonna shout and scream at you. And it seems like he doesn't know how to utilize the players that we've brought in that have ability on the ball effectively. It's that long ball counter attacking, but these are players that don't know how to do that. They're used to dominating possession and fancy passes and playing into the box. They're not used to sort of long sprints to up and down the pitch. And I think in some senses, you've got to play to your strengths. And they changed. With the amount of signings we made, our strengths have changed from what they were last season. And it's shown that he's not adapted to it himself. And that's what's frustrating, is I liked him. And I really wanted it to work. So I could say to people, well, you was wrong, wasn't there? A lot of people who said, we don't want to bring him back. It was rubbish, this, that and the other. If we'd won something and we'd carried on pushing up the table, then there's no argument, is there, that he's the right man for the job. But I don't think he is anymore, and that's the frustrating bit.
Fair enough. Frankie, can you hear us? Yeah?
I can, mate. Can you hear me now?
Yeah! Yeah, I can. Frankie was at the game. Take it away, mate. How are you feeling?
Mate, it's a bright sunny day out there. I've got my yellow canary shirt, and as Steve said, I'm feeling very positive, spirited and happy, and taking the world on this week, mate, and enjoying the week without being in, as my son calls it, the red zone. So that's all positive, mate. And at the end of the day, I can't say too much, because before the game I said, it don't really matter how it comes today. We just have to get the win, and that's fine. However, it was the most boring, most abysmal garbage dross of a football match that my son's 15 minutes from the end begged me to leave, begged me. Said, Dad, can we please go? The boy loves football. We go to Ebbsfleet, Dartford, Maidstone, Charlton, wherever he can watch football, the boy watches football and he sits there happily and watches every single minute. I really felt like a guilty dad this weekend because I could have took him Charlton on the Saturday, didn't, because I saved it for West Ham. Charlton goes and wins 6-0, and West Ham deliver that dross for him. His highlight of the game was I got him front row tickets, and he was in front of the bubble machine, and he was bursting the bubbles, and that was about as good as he got. In entertainment value, 0. Quality of football, 0. Style of football, 0. Just an absolute boring, dull game of football. In a completely abysmal atmosphere, not just from us, actually. And I'm starting to realise it ain't just us, it's modern day football, mate, because Southampton are fighting for their life and they showed a very little fight. The fans showed very little getting behind their team. And even their players, Southampton players, I didn't see any urgency. You're bottom of the league. Have a bit of something about you. Look like you want to try and get out the position you're in. They didn't look like they were that bothered, mate, if I'm honest with you. So all round, just a bit of a non-event, mate, to be honest. It just bores me to tears. I'll take the result. I'll take the win. I'll take we're up to 14th. I'll take all of that. But I cannot suffer any more of it after this season. We all know it's Moyes now to the end of the season. That's fine. Let's, do this and if that's the only way that he can win football matches, then that's what we've got to suffer. We'll suffer it up until the end of the season. And then, I'll just please show me something different next year because I can't suffer too much more of it, mate. It's just not worth spending a penny on, mate. It's so dull.
How many empty seats did you notice around?
It weren't too bad. It's been worse. There were still quite a few. I mean, I'm in the front row on the halfway line. So the halfway line's there. We was in the front row. There was 4 seats spare next to me. There was plenty of seats behind me. Looking up to the tops, there was quite a lot of spare seats everywhere. It didn't seem that busy. You know when it's a busy game over there because queuing becomes really difficult, getting a drink becomes really difficult, and it was clearly not banged out, but it was okay, mate. It was okay. But you sort of, a big game for us, you expected there to be a bit of an atmosphere, you expected there to be, I think the most noise we made is when we kept passing it sideways and backwards in the first 20 minutes and we started booing them to say, play forward. And in the end, people were screaming, pass forward, pass forward. Ben Rama had space in front of him to burn into and he chose to turn back and run the other way. And everyone was like, get forward, what are you doing? And the frustration they heard that and then the team sort of bucked their ideas up a little bit and tried to play, but that was the most noise we made. And then you hear stories of people trying to get songs going but got told to keep quiet and got laughed at and stuff like that. It's just a weird place. I've never known it for West Ham, mate. We've had some bad teams over the years, but we've always got behind them and cheered them on. Upton Park weren't always rocking, but we had a little bit of character about us to get behind the team when we needed it. And I don't know, just feels so flat. I think everyone's just feels the same, just frustrated, bored, and looking for... I mean, the best excitement yesterday was when Paqueta done his little flick in the top left-hand corner there. He done a little flick round a player and everyone He lost the ball 2 seconds later and that was that finished, but that was the most excited anyone got. We could have played yesterday for, 180 minutes and we still wouldn't have scored from open play. We was never going to score from open play yesterday, never looked like scoring from open play. And I don't really pay what I pay to go and watch that, mate. It's an expensive hobby, it costs a fortune, and you expect some level of enjoyment, but there's not much enjoyment over there at the moment, mate, I have to say.
Yeah, I think everything you've said is what I felt as well, watching it from home, and And Ian, I think for you again, like you said, for me, it's the worst season I've ever supported West Ham since 1983. It's not enjoying it at all, mate. It's really hard. Even thought about stopping the channel. I can't do it anymore, mate. I'm feeling, even we win, we score, I don't really celebrate like I used to. I used to usually jump up and go nuts. You know, it's just, I don't know what's happened. And I'm just waiting with respect until he goes and we get. And I'll take anything, mate. Anyone, I'll take anyone coming in, and I'll be back to normal again, I think. And
I feel like we're a little bit to blame. I don't know what you guys feel, but I saw we seem to be the easiest to please fan base in football right now. That I saw some people after the game giving players a 10, which suggests that that's the best possible performance they could give for West Ham, and you'll never see a better one. You may see another one on par, but you won't see a better performance from that player again in a West Ham shirt. I never saw anybody giving that sort of level of performance. No. I think against Seville last season, there was plenty of those performances that you could say that was the peak that you're ever going to deliver for West Ham. But I just saw so many 10s, 9s. I walked out there and thought, we did a job. A lot of players did well. A lot of players had better performances. No one was above average. No one. It was all average across the board, other than Souček, that was pretty damn poor. So I just don't get where these 10s, 9s and all this comes from. And I see, Paqueta and Aguerd shone. Did they shine? I don't see any shining out there. They had good games, solid games. That's great. I didn't see no shining.
I think Aguerd, obviously, defence in large patches of the game wasn't really tested by Southampton, so all round he didn't have much to worry about. Kehrer was better than normal, I felt. Assisted the goal, and he's trying to make things happen and seemed to be more kind of playing up front than Danny Ings sometimes. I don't know what's going on. Danny kept on getting offside a couple of times. Obviously, I don't like him up front the way he is, but lots of different things. What any comments, Ian, on Fabianski coming back in? Because he had an okay game as well. But Areola, where does that leave his future, mate? Really, I don't know.
In fairness, I thought Areola should have been the number one keeper for a little while now. I think Fabianski's a bit past it. He made a couple of decent saves, didn't he? He's very static, though, is what I've noticed, especially last season as well. If unless it's shot straight at him, if it's down to either side, he'll get to it. But if he's got to dive for it, or he's got to rush out of his goal, he's too slow off the mark. He's a very static keeper, and I really don't like it. I'm not necessarily a fan of sweeper keepers that have got to play out with their feet, but you've got to have someone a bit more agile in there. But for me, as Frankie said, it was an all right performance. Didn't shine, but it wasn't good, wasn't bad. It was just sort of somewhere in the middle. He did what he needed to do, kept a clean sheet.
Yeah, I think what we're going to get with Areola Fabianski is that every couple of games they play, they're going to be all right in one, not so good in the other. Okay, again, it's just going to be that. It's up to Moyes what he wants to do. But yesterday, I thought Fabianski pulled off a couple of good saves, at least what I can remember. But then I do remember, but let me know if I'm wrong, Frankie, is that Areola was a little bit up and down in a couple of his games as well before that.
He had a few moments like that, mate. What the biggest concern for people, I think, was that he doesn't command his area very well. He very much stays on his line. He don't want to come and catch the ball. He looks very shaky from crosses and from corners. And I think that was people's biggest criticism of Areola. There's no question he plays the ball quicker from the back. His distribution is faster, gets us moving the ball forward quicker than when There was another moment yesterday when Fabianski, the player out on the left, is in acres of space. I can't remember whether it was Kehrer or Benrahma. But there was, and everyone was screaming at Fabianski, throw the ball, just give him the ball. He's there, and you're looking and you're checking back. Just give the man the ball early. He's in so much space, and the crowd were really frustrated. And I think that's what my biggest criticism of Fabianski is. We know he's an all right shot stopper. From his Fabianski days, he definitely seems better from commanding the area than what Areola is. However, what you have to give to Areola is that those parts of your game come with confidence. And I think you've got to play more games to get used to commanding your area. And those sort of things come and you feel more comfortable doing it. So I would have liked to have seen maybe Areola continue, because, like I say, I think we're slow to move the ball anyway, and I think Areola helps us just get the ball going a bit quicker and catch teams out of position. With Fabianski, it's wait, look over there, look left, look right. Right now, I'm going to give the ball, and the other team's got back in their shape, and it's harder to break them down. So, but I don't think there's a lot to choose between either of them. It's just Areola's youth and just his little bit of speed, I think, that helps a little bit, maybe.
Yeah, because as an example, Areola, he threw the ball out one game and it went well over the halfway line. So you can throw the ball quicker than Fabianski kicks it. Just going to go a little bit away from the game because, Ginge, how you doing, mate? You all right? Can you hear me? Can you see me? Ginge?
Yeah, mate. Yeah, I can hear you.
I can't hear you very well, but you've got some news on Declan Rice for me that you saw something after the game regarding his move to Arsenal, wasn't it, Matt?
Yeah, so I was sitting in entrance C, and I come out, and that's where the players come out underneath. And Declan Rice come out, and I shouted to him, "Declan, don't go Arsenal." And he turned round and shook his head as if to say, "No, I'm not going Arsenal." And I've got it all on video. But, that's just the exclusive news I've got.
He did acknowledge you. I saw the video, but I don't know what his hand gestures were from that far. But I don't know what that meant. But yeah,
I reckon he was giving Ginge one of them. I reckon he was going like that. I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know what he's
going like this. He's going like that. Shut up, you muppet.
You can see him shaking his head, and he's like, but I just don't know what to think of it. He's shaking his head as if to say, "Oh my God, not this again," or is he saying, "No, it's all right, I'm not"? But
no, I wouldn't take any. I'm not sure. I don't think he was trying to say anything, mate. But we'll see what happens with that. But certainly, a couple of things came out in the news yesterday. Ian is Brendan, Rodgers, and Potter have gone, so that's added to the number of managers who are not in a job. Any of those interest you, mate? Because I'll go into a bit more on what we were hearing from the club. But yeah, what do you reckon?
I don't want Brendan Rodgers, if I'm honest. I think he's okay, but it doesn't do anything for me. And Graham Potter, before he went to Chelsea, he did pique my interest a little bit because they were playing good football at Brighton and at Chelsea. They just couldn't score, and both teams under him went through long periods of not being able to score. So it's one of those: do you want that fancy style of football but not score, or do you stick with something tried and tested? I really don't know. I think any change now is going to have a little effect of positivity, but what you don't want is say we did bring one of those in, they have a small spell of that sort of new manager bounce, and then it starts going wrong. Are we going to wait 2 years to act on it, or are we going to be quick to nip in the bud and go, this isn't working?
What about you, Frankie? Any of those? Interested in any of them?
I'm really not a fan of Brendan Rodgers at all. I don't really like him. I don't like him as a person. He's another character that I just don't think fits at West Ham. I don't think he'd understand West Ham. I don't think he'd get West Ham, and I just don't think we'd relate to him very well either. I do think like it's time. It's hard, isn't it? Because when you look at people who have come out of West Ham in recent times, there are not many that have gone into management that you would say that's an obvious move for West Ham. The one that's coming through is Carrick. Yep. He has learnt his trade at Man United, and he's been a proper apprentice, and I think that puts him in good stead. He's the man I think we would relate to most out of anyone who's out there. It's a big risk because obviously he's not had that job before, but I do think he's got more background than I think a lot of like the Lampards and Gerrards of this world had. I don't think they learned much at all before they took those big jobs. Plus, we're not as big a job as some of these teams that these other people go to. Potter going to Chelsea, I think half of the problem is that when you've got these big egos, these big characters in football, and they've got someone trying to tell them what to do but never achieved anything themselves, they turn around and go, who are you to tell me what to do, mate? I've already achieved more in my career than you did in your entire career. Why should I listen to you? And that's why I think teams like Chelsea, with the calibre of players they've got, have to go and sign managers who have been there, seen there, done it, won it all. And the players can't say anything to them but respect them. We don't need that at West Ham because we ain't quite got that sort of level of player. I actually think that's why the wheels have fallen off a little bit with West Ham lately. I think last season we brought players in like Souček and Soufal who were just happy to be in the Premier League. They were just grateful that they were there and given an opportunity. So Moyes could say to them, look, just run your nuts off and just run and give it your all. And they was only happy to do that. You bring in Paquetas and he actually thinks, hang on a minute, I don't like how you're playing here. I've seen more than what you're giving us to play. And I don't believe in just running. I actually want to play proper football. And I do think that's where there's been a bit of a disconnect between some of the new signings and David Moyes. And I think their influence around the team saying, hang on, this ain't good enough football. We're better than this. I think that's probably been a little bit of the issue. But Rodgers, for me, he don't match West Ham. And I don't really rate him. Potter, it's a difficult one, mate, because, you know, he's young enough and youthful enough that you could give him a project West Ham and let him build something from the future. The only thing that worries me with Potter is Brighton have carried on where they left off. So how much of it was Potter's doing? I don't know. I think Brighton have just got a very good structure, very good ownership, very good understanding of who to bring in and who they want in the football club. Very good people who understand football and what they're all about. Does Potter come into West Ham and work well under Sullivan, if Sullivan's still there? I'm not so sure. You know, if Potter comes in and he wants to redevelop training facilities and do this and he wants to build a project, Sullivan would look at him like he was a nutter and just think, mate, just you've got what you've got and get on with it. So I'm not sure that goes down too well. For me, the one more out of those two, I would be, well, I'm a Carrick man at the moment, mate. I'm convinced he's the right fit for us right now, and I think he's worth the gamble.
I think that's the one I want because I think we should go for, and it is like you said, it's a tiny risk. I like that. We've got to be different. If you look at the last or every appointment this board has made, mate, they've all been out of a job and they've all been kind of, we know what they are. They're coming towards the end or middle of their career, but I want to do something that Brighton, Brentford do, or Leicester in the past. Just get someone that we're not too sure about or we don't know a lot about them, but it's the DNA, the way they play. Because Brighton, like you said, Frankie and Ian, we know that when they lost Potter, they had a list of the three ready to go. They knew who their manager's going to be because that manager plays a certain way that the club, it matches what the club wants to do, and then it's easy. And now we've been told while Potter was there, they've got this, Brighton owned this data analysis system or software that's quite unique, and they do buy it, if not all, most of their players according to that system. So whether the Brighton managers are kind of coaches, I don't know. And then the club decides who they're going to buy, because I think Watford had that model and one or two other clubs before that. But Carrick, like you said, mate, he's played for the club, which means a lot for a lot of the fans. And his playing style, mate, you just got to look at the results. And he's played under Van Gaal, Mourinho, all those kind of managers, Sir Alex, who he's still close to, and what he tells his players, mate, is what you want to hear. Is that, and he'll say, just go and play the way you did as a kid, express yourself, show them what you can do. And for Benrahma, if that means trying a few tricks and dribbles and losing it, Carrick won't mind, if long as it's not taking a complete piss, you know. So he's going to encourage that. But Premiership is another beast. You got to have a wits about you. You've got to make sure you are reasonably solid at the back, but Moyes just takes the mickey on that side of things. So for me, Carrick, mate, it's the football he plays, he encourages, and himself portrayed that. He's a cool customer, commands respect. It's very easy on the eye when he used to play, never lost a ball, and yeah, I like what he's doing at Borough. A couple of systems he plays around with, and it looks like, sort of Ian, Frankie, the issue with Borough is, mate, it looks like they're going to be really close to going up. So if they go up, I don't think any manager's ever kind of gone up and then moved clubs. I'm not sure about that. Potter, don't really know enough about him, and I like managers who I can identify certain systems with, and with him I can't figure him out yet. And you're right, if we did Rodgers, it would be a lazy appointment by the board again, whereas Rodgers has probably peaked, isn't he, if you look at his career, you know, done well at Swansea, and even including at Leicester. And in saying all of this as well, what the conclusion I've come to is any manager that you get in, after 2 years, they're going to struggle more often than not. So get someone in, put us on the right track for a couple of years, and then let's see how it goes after that. But like you said, have a plan in place, if it's possible. Part of the coaching, sort of try to figure out if someone can come up, like John Lyle did in the past, or one or two others. But yeah, not too sure about that. Then there's that Bayern Munich guy. He's not going to come to non-Champions League club. Mourinho again, lazy name. Benitez, that'll be awful, and Bielsa and all those kind of people.
The coaching staff would be a big part of Carrick working. I think we'll need the right staff around him, experience, real well drilled. But I would just love to see, because I think Joe Cole still speaks so well about West Ham. I'd love to see him involved somehow under Carrick, and I'd really like just to see, a bit of the old. I know they never. To be fair, it's hard because they didn't achieve nothing with us, but I still loved that era of West Ham. It was still amazing. And if you've got Carrick with some old wise heads around him, some really solid coaches, and then you've got players like Joe Cole around him or whatever, I just think it would be. It would give us all a real big lift and just bring a bit of West Ham identity back to West Ham, which I think we're crying out for right now.
Usual suspect, let me know what that channel was saying. Were they saying that he's more than 5 or less, mate? It looks like that they're having a go at you because you didn't give enough. But Souček, Ian, again, it's one of those days that we're getting quite. Didn't really see anything. And what I said before Frankie came in was, I'd rather take him out during a game or before next game. Just bring another striker up front and see how it goes, mate. Because
he's been given a bit of a hard task because he's playing a different role to what he was when that first sort of on loan spell he came to us, where he was given that freedom to go forward. He's now being that sort of bit more holding player, and Rice is given the freedom to do what he likes, which I understand to a certain extent, but you can't then expect him to make these late runs into the box as well and score the goals. He's either got to defend or attack. You can't do both all at the same time. And it's difficult.
It's a weird role he's playing, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, at times yesterday, so sitting right at the front on that halfway line, you sort of. I said to me boy, I said, Bowen's going to be really running this side for you now. I said, because he's his favourite player. I said, you're going to see him up close and he's going to be running down that line. At times, Bowen was drifting into central midfield, like right into the middle. And then you'd look up top and think, who's up there? And Souček would be like literally the furthest man forward. And it was just like, it's a very, very strange role that he's playing for West Ham. And I don't think I get it, and I don't think he really gets it. And I don't know if even Moyes gets what he's trying to do, other than offering a target man for Ings to feed off of. Yet we don't seem to use it. And then I couldn't believe it. Danny Ings comes off. So Ings has not seen any of the ball. Ings comes off. 2 minutes later, Bowen gets down the right-hand side, puts a ball across the box where Ings would have been standing. And it was like, why won't we do that when he was on the pitch? It was just crazy.
It is crazy, mate. And we all knew that if the next substitution, like Antonio's warming up, and we knew that Ings was kind of come off. And Ings, he wasn't happy at the end, mate. If you saw that, he was shaking his head. And I know that happens more often than not at all substitutions these days, but that's kind of what I saw. Steve, yeah, you're right, mate. Souček, it's coming quite apparent. Yeah, a lot of fans are not sure about him. Some people are speaking about Fornals. I mean, he's a good lad, good guy to have around the squad, but I still struggle to see what his position is in the team. If either of you know his position, then I'd like to try. Is he CDM? Is he a centre mid creator? Is he a winger? I don't know what he is.
Well, I think the season before we signed him, he played in a tournament for Spain, didn't he? And he
under 21
goals from all over the place. But he was given that sort of freedom as a central midfielder to go forward. At the minute, he's been chucked out on the wing. He's been playing deep. It's like, well, where do you want him to play? Give him a position and let him play there. Don't change it every week. This week you're on the wing, mate. Stay out wide, and then next week, no, you're in the centre. He doesn't know where he's meant to be. That's a Moyes thing. He does it all the time. He can't stick to instead of changing his system, he'll just put different players in different positions and play the same system, and then no one knows where they're meant to be.
Yeah, I mean, again, going back to the whole game, it wasn't very good. We won. That's good. We're 14th. 3, 4 players were okay. The rest were not so okay. And then in terms of after the game, Frankie, you saw 1 or 2 fireworks, mate. Did you, if I'm right?
It was very lively after the game, mate. There was it was running battles all the way to the train station, mate. It was kicking off everywhere. It was and toe to toe battles, mate. It was no messing around. But again, West Ham v West Ham, mate. It was very niggly over there yesterday. There was trouble in the stands for whatever reason. I think a lot of fans are there yesterday thinking, well, we've got the win. What more can you want? Other fans frustrated by the performance still and saying, that's still not good enough for us. And there's just a real divide. But what you don't want to see is West Ham fans fighting West Ham fans. There was kids crying, kids screaming that they were scared, shaking with fear. It was quite bad. I mean, at the end of the day, mate, it's part of football. Unfortunately, it happens at times, and that is just part of the game, whether you like it or not. Some people will say it shouldn't be part of the game, but emotions get high, beer gets drunk, and sometimes it boils over. My boy luckily is quite immune to that sort of stuff, but it's still not good. The disappointing thing with me was just how we've got fans behaving like that with each other, mate. It's we should all stand together and be united, especially in times like at the moment. So to start rowing with each other isn't ideal at all.
Ian, any comments on that, mate? Kicking off in parts of the ground yesterday.
Yeah, I mean, I understand people's frustration. The bit that gets me is there are a lot of fickle West Ham fans. If we go and win the next 3 games, David Moyes is equal to God in some fans' eyes. We'll lose the next one, and then he needs to be sacked, and everyone around who disagrees needs a punching. And I don't get it. Obviously, we all have opinions, some good, some bad. They're not all going to be the same all the time. But I don't understand letting it out in that way. It goes over my head a little bit.
And those are the ones that Frankie has fun and games with on Twitter, everyone. Because it is like that, yeah. There is fans that change their opinion, yeah, every so often. Hammerhead, yeah, that's what I was reading, that this data analysis, I don't know what it is. That's how they buy their players for the manager. How much he really does, we don't know, mate. We don't know.
But would that not be a good thing for us? If he's a really good coach and manager, if we can get some form of scouting networking, I know that's wishful thinking, but let him manage the players we've got, because we've got decent players. We've got players who are good on the ball, who can play. They just seem to be lacking confidence and lacking direction. Let him do that.
Listen, if he comes in, mate, he's better than Moyes, but I'm just not sure. But then I'm not an expert, I don't know. But yeah, if it is him, we'll support him from day one and we'll get on with it. But at the moment, just, not too sure.
The bit that frustrates me with our manager, right, is we've got Moyes, and my understanding is, from what I've read and what I've heard, we're going to stick with him till the end of the season, no matter what. Now, if we stay up and win the Conference League, fantastic. We're in the Europa League next year, and it's a fresh slate. If we get relegated and don't win it, surely we should have tried to change something. Why have we stuck with what's not working? All right, we're getting some results because we are a better team than others around us. But if we get relegated and we don't win a trophy that, by all rights, we should be walking to the final and to lifting it up, then who's to blame? Is that Moyes, because he's been doing the job he's been told to do, you'd like to think, the best of his ability? Is that the board? Is that a combination? It frustrates me that everyone else around us and even above us are going, okay, this is not working. We need to change something to try and give us a lift and make it work. We're the only team that don't.
I think 2 reasons for that from my point of view is that it's really weird. It's a weird season where 8-9 clubs are about as crap as us. We got this tournament, the Conference Europa, that's pretty weird to me in terms of the clubs in there and how we've won 10 in a row. Then there's a bit of that we don't plan. We don't plan anything. We don't know who we want because we don't have the systems in place to go and find out who the next manager should be. So there's a bit of laziness from the board in terms of what I'm thinking, mate. Frankie, what do you think? Why have we not sacked him? What you thinking?
Mate, I agree with with what was just said, and I agree with Hammerhead as well. We're never going to win anything with Moyes. You could take the team over Hackney Marshes and create a tournament of 10 teams, and he wouldn't win it. He just hasn't got it in him to win anything, and he just isn't a winner. Chelsea sat their manager, bring in Roberto Di Matteo, and go and win the Champions League. Like, I don't think it's a tough job to keep us up. I think anyone with half a brain could do it. With all the options he's got available to him, all of the players he's got available to him, it should be a cruise for anybody to keep West Ham in the Premier League. But getting rid of him and bringing someone in, this is what we're going to miss out on. We will just about stay up with David Moyes and those types of performances yesterday. He's a lucky man when the writing's on the wall. He always seems to come through it. I don't know how he does it, but I'm now very confident that Moyes will do a couple of more of those type results and West Ham will be okay. What we won't do is we've got one of the best chances that you're ever going to see West Ham have to win a European competition. We may not have this opportunity again for a decade, even longer. I would have loved to have seen us just bring someone in who might have had the character and the winning mentality to go and win that tournament. And under David Moyes, we know we won't. So it's a big shame, really, because I think anyone would have kept us up, but bringing in someone who would have had a little bit more about them to go and win that tournament, who knows what might have happened. But it's not over yet, I suppose. We all will believe and we'll all stay in it. I personally believe, and it's a big call, and to say this is brave because I'm sure people will go back to this. I don't think we come through Ghent. I think we're going to come unstuck. So time will tell.
Yeah, going back to that talk,
mate, that semi-final in Amsterdam would be one of the biggest moments West Ham were ever likely to have. And any time we're on the verge of doing something, West Ham let you down. And I don't even know if that's a David Moyes thing. That's just a West Ham thing.
I think that's the actual West Ham way, isn't it? When people go on, if we almost get there, we're the almost team.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Amsterdam, they've recently put an advert out and they don't want any lads from the UK coming for stags. They've warned us off, saying don't come here for a good time and all that comes with it late on. That's a bit weird from them. And in terms of the final of the conference, everyone, it's not going to be a lot of tickets around, is there? Not a lot of tickets going to be available for the final. It's only is it 20,000 stadium? Is it, or 40,000?
Yeah,
what is it?
20,000. Yeah.
Oh, mate! Wow. Yeah, maybe that needs to be looked at in the next sort of couple of tournaments to have with that. The other news coming through, everyone, is that Agard, a lot of clubs are keeping an eye on him. Clubs like Spurs, Liverpool, and one or two Man United, I'm being told. If he carries on this way, I mean, it depends which way you look at it. You might think he's okay, nothing more than that. It's early. Some people are obviously thinking him as a new captain immediately after if Rice goes. So do you think he's as good as what we're saying? Do you think he should be captain? And do you think how long can we keep hold of him, especially if we keep struggling every season like this, really? Frankie, what do you think?
Don't know how much I've got on that, mate, to be honest with you.
Yeah. So obviously, I think I'm guessing is you want to see obviously full season from him and then see how it goes, because there are a few mistakes in him. We've seen that, but it's just like you said, it's quite interesting how fans look at it. I mean, I was on the show where I said Danny Ings should be captain if anyone. Yeah. If I had to choose, but they said no, Agard's the one. They've made up their mind that he's a legend, and I don't know.
You are right, and we've been here before. We've been here before with Diop. Diop was a beast. He was an animal. Mourinho was coming out and saying, I commend whoever scouted him because he's unbelievable. And, we were looking at there thinking we've got the best young defender in France and that he's a world beater. People throwing around 40, 50 million pound price tags with him. And then he ended up doing nothing and becoming a bit of a calamity, and Moyes got his claws into him and does what he does by ruining players' confidence, and it all goes wrong. So I don't know. We've seen the best and we've seen the worst of Aguerd so far. What will be the long term, mate? Difficult to call. It's a tough one, isn't it?
Ian, are you concrete fan of Agard, or you want to see a bit more next season?
I'd take it or leave it. I think we've got to learn from our mistakes. I think we'd be lying to ourselves if we would say we're the biggest club and we'd keep hold of every player that we've got that's really good. But cast your mind, mate. Diop is one. Lanzini, Liverpool wanted him 40 million. I don't think you could get 10 for him now. Dimitri Payet, how much did someone want to buy him for before he left for pennies on the dollar 6 months later? If someone comes in with a decent bid for him, take it, because knowing us, we won't get a new manager. We'll keep Moyes, and he'll turn bad as well, and then we'll have to get rid of him on a free. It frustrates me. I mean, if we keep him, I'm not going to be unhappy with that. But if we get decent money for him, then why not take it and invest it in a training ground or something sensible like that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, for me, it just shows you the situation in the squad. We don't have any captains or leaders, so to take it from Rice, who again shouldn't have got it, and give it to someone who's played a handful of games, it just says it all. So it is up in the air for me. Any comments on whether they're stupid rumours or not, whether they hold any sort of, are they valid or not? Is the Chelsea inquiring about sharing the ground with us? I don't know legally if that's possible. I don't think we got to. I'm not sure if we can say yes or no because we don't own the ground. I don't know what's in the contract. So I don't know if anyone wants to pick up on those kind of rumours surfacing.
My understanding with the way the contract's written is that as of the end of this season, that we are able to purchase it without paying an extra subsidy to the government, same as Brzezinski taking over as a majority shareholder. If we own it, it's a stupid thing to do, to share with Chelsea, because their fans are not going to respect anything to do with us, are they? And it's just going to get ruined. All right, it's not the best stadium in the world now, but if we own it, you'd like to think we'd develop it to make it up there with some of the best stadiums. So I think that would be a bad decision. If we don't purchase it, it's running at a loss. So the London Legacy Committee who own it will take their money. It makes business sense to do that. Take their money. We're doubling down on what we're doing, and it's now no longer running at a loss. And that's not going to be good either. It's sort of a, if we don't buy it, it's a lose-lose situation for us.
What about you, Frankie? What do you think? It's not good, the relationship we've got with the...
Even more frightening was on the Millwall podcast last night, mate, that if they get promoted, they'll be sharing with us. So that would be a disaster. But this is the problem, isn't it? You can say what you like. The point is, when you don't own your stadium, anything can happen. It is what it is. But then we had it at Upton Park as well, that they was potentially going to share with teams who was going to have ground redevelopments and things like that. You know, when you've got a large stadium like that, if people are out of their stadium because they're redeveloping or whatever it may be, sometimes, you know, we're in a money game, unfortunately, and money rules everything in the Premier League. And I don't know whether owning it does make much of a difference, or whether, you know, whoever your owners are, if there's a cash cow there to come in and give you a massive cash injection, then will they just take it? I don't know.
Yeah, because I think there's a current argument going on at the moment between the owners of the ground and us, and they've paid 7 million legal fees so far. And then again, it's just we don't want to fix it. Apparently, there's some repairs that are needed because the stadium, they didn't think it was going to last as long as it has. Does anyone know what Man City did to their one after the Commonwealth Games to turn into what it is now? Because again, they're revamping that ground once again. So I don't know if they made it in the way where you were able to collapse it quickly and that kind of thing.
The point with them, mate, wasn't the games, was it? It was they'd prepared for football prior to the stadium being built. They already had an infrastructure in place that they knew it was going to be Man City's ground. So when they built the Commonwealth Stadium, they built it in a way that it would be converted into football afterwards. The problem was we had so many legal battles going on with so many different people who didn't want West Ham to get it, that, you know, a lot of things happened that meant it was never really planned. Obviously, Egert Magnuson originally turned down the opportunity to move to the London Stadium, and that was when the planning was being done. So it goes right back to his ownership and him not putting his hat into the ring for the stadium. And so it was never developed with football in mind, mate. And that's the biggest problem we got.
Yeah, I mean, obviously Spurs were neck and neck with us to grab the ground, but I think they wanted to do a lot more than we have, isn't it? They were going to change it, weren't they? I think. And whether that kind of was part of the reason why we got it, I'm not too sure. Charlton, they did, mate. They did, and back in those days, I don't think there's much of an issue. Apart from the pitch got a battering, didn't it? It got used every week. Apart from that, it wasn't very good, mate. I think those are the main things I wanted to talk about. So this season for me, at the moment, is a write-off. If we win the conference, then yeah, it looks a lot better. And I'm just looking forward to the summer, really, to get a new manager in and kickstart it all. But there's too many things up in the air for me. I think the ownership, the future. We lost a couple of board members, passing away, rest in peace. So that's all up in the air. Fighting with the ground owners and more else going on, and Rice going or not. There's so many things. Even the new manager wanted to come in. What are you going to tell him? Is Rice staying? Is he not? Are we going to own the ground long term? Are we going to invest in our facilities? Who's going to be the owners? It is a real mindful, isn't it, Ian, in terms of...
It's one of those, it's not... Whoever follows on Moyes hasn't got an easy job.
Yeah.
The priority is getting the ownership sorted, is Krasinski going to take over as majority shareholder. Not saying the grass is always greener, but it looks like he wants to develop the football club. That would answer a lot of questions. And then you've got to move on to, is Rice staying? I wouldn't begrudge him for wanting to leave, providing he puts in all his effort while he's here and does it in a sort of professional manner. If he leaves to try and win something, fair play to him. But yeah, it's not going to be an easy job for anyone who comes in.
Last question for you, Ian, and a big one. If we get relegated, mate, what's it for you, the future? What's going to happen?
Leighton Orient fan, I think.
Yeah.
Could switch my allegiances. No, not really. I don't know. I think it's that would just be the cherry on top, wouldn't it? It would just be the cherry on top with Sullivan in charge, riding the ship down, and then taking all his money and running.
Yeah, same for you, Frankie. Anything you want to bring up? And I just remembered one more thing, Frankie, is that if we did manage to buy the ground, they were saying we're going to double the prices, mate, season tickets and everything else, that because we'd have to pick up the bill for a lot more than what we are at the moment. What we want.
Pick up the bill for everything, don't we? We always do, mate. Yeah, I don't know. Krasinski, you say, wants to develop West Ham. I think he wants to develop a load of buildings on that prime real estate around the stadium. I think that's what he really wants to do. Looking at his structure and the companies that are involved in it, they're all property companies. That's what he sees. Does he really care about West Ham? I'm very, very sceptical of whether he really gives a damn about West Ham, if I'm honest. If he did, I would have been expecting him to be flexing his sort of self a little bit more now and trying to get involved in the position that we've been in, but he's been very quiet, hasn't really said too much and allowed us to continue with the way that we've been going. I don't know, it's a dire strait. I am with Steve. We're not getting relegated now. I've come to the real, and a lot of people will say that's too complacent, and I've been one of those people who've been saying, look, we can get relegated. For whatever reason, Moyes has got this jammy, lucky streak in him that when the going gets tough, he finds a result. By hook or by crook, he comes through it with a lucky header, a set piece, something or other. He gets a way to win a 1-0. So, but that being that, I think we're going to be all right in terms of staying up. If we did go down, it would have been a travesty. I think it would have been a bigger travesty than people realise. I actually felt like going down would have cleansed the club a little bit again, got rid of some of the tourists, maybe some of the old faces would have come back and some of the old fans would have crept back as well. And it might have been not a bad thing for West Ham. And, I've never had a problem with it before. I still went to every game, home and away. Get away tickets much easier. You actually win more games when you're in the Championship. We had lots of trips to the Millennium Stadium, which was fun. It was never that bad being a West Ham fan in the Championship, but this time I think it might have been different. I think we might have found ourselves stuck there and really struggling to come back from it. So I'm glad. I feel like we're going to be okay now. I should now just be looking forward to the European journey that we're going to be going on. But I'm still struggling because I'm just not seeing any evidence in the football we're playing that we're going to be able to have enough to try and go and win it. Which is, even if there was a little glimmer of us playing the type of football that could go and win that tournament, I'd be excited now. Still a job to do in the Premier League, but a big win and kicking on, looking forward to that first leg in Belgium, mate. So, yeah, it just feels like the season's kind of just going to peter out for us. Hopefully, we get a couple more of those wins against lesser opposition. We get ourselves into a safe place. We'll go out in the quarters or semi-finals of this other competition, and we'll all just be waiting to get to the end of the season. Hopefully, get rid of David Moyes and plan for something bigger in the future. Whether that, I hope it's not under Sullivan. Anything's got to be better than Sullivan being in full control. And I hope whoever does come in, and if it's Kretinsky being the largest shareholder, if he goes and makes a load of money out of, selling off land and he manages to get us that stadium, I just hope the one thing that he does is put those Sullivan days behind him. I would hate for Sullivan to be still in the background in a little way. That would be the worst thing, because he'd still be in Kretinsky's ear roll telling him how it should be, and I don't think they've got a clue how it should be for West Ham. And I just hope he brings a new lease of life to West Ham again. I'd love him to redesign the badge without that silly London thing on it, which has never turned us into a global brand. I'd love him to sort of come in and ask the fans what experience we want over there and what we want from football, and just really try and understand us and our history and glorify that a little bit, and just make the place feel like West Ham again, mate, with a manager who is going to build something and excite us again and promote youth through and play a style of football that we all enjoy. And going to West Ham will be a happy place again, mate. That's all I want, really.
Yeah, it can't get any worse, mate, after this season. I think it will get better, hopefully. Tom's asking, do we think Moyes is going to start Ings or Antonio? For me, that's a cracking question, Tom.
Mate.
Antonio, having thought of it. What about you, Ian?
I'd go with Antonio. I can't see him starting Ings again.
I don't think so, mate. Steve loves predictions, going 2-2. I'm not going to predict. I'm just not very good this season on it, mate. I don't know if anyone else can sense anything home to Newcastle.
I think we're going to lose. Looking at how they were playing against Manchester United, if they carry that on, I think we're in for a rough time.
They don't normally travel to London well, do they? They always had that bit of period where they couldn't win in London, and they really struggled to pick up points in London. Going on form and going on, like you say, the United game and how we just played, you'd think they'd quite comfortably beat us. But I don't know. It's a funny old game. Moyes has just got us a result. They've got a lot of pressure on them. They've just gone 3 points clear of United. And, as much as we've got pressure on us, they've got pressure on them as well. They'll be feeling it. I think it'll be a different game to when we played them at their place. They were missing big players when we played them there. And a lot of people gave us a lot of credit. And I actually think they just weren't. They weren't the side without those players that, I think they was missing. They had the equivalent of us missing Declan Rice and, our big players. So we didn't play the full-on Newcastle team. But weirdly, mate, I've just got it in me that we nick a draw. I can't see it being 2-2 because I just don't think West Ham have got 2 goals in us against the side like Newcastle. But I can see a 1-1. So, I'll go 1-1.
I'll tell you what, one thing's for certain. If you want a bit of atmosphere and noise, their fans will surely bring that to the ground. They're mad. So they'll sell all of that out and be in good voice, I think. And I just remember the most important thing I didn't discuss on the whole show, and the thing that keeps me up all night about being a West Ham fan is, do we all want Umbro to carry on with the shirts, or do we want Adidas back like me? Frankie doesn't like shirts, but Ian, come on, mate. The most important issue in my mind, I want Adidas back, please.
In fairness, I've had a few issues with Adidas stealing parcels from me, so they can stick it up themselves. Pick Umbro.
Oh, mate, that's brilliant. But anyway, thank you both for joining in. It's start of another West Ham week with a game on Wednesday. And let's just keep watching every game and see how things are. But certainly the squad is mainly fit, most of it, so I've got no issues on that side really. How much he uses Skamaka Cornet, that'll be interesting, especially Skamaka. We'll discuss that on another show. But a few funny things happening down there really. So have a great week, and we'll try to catch up after Wednesday's game. You going, Frankie, before you going?
I'm umming and ahhing, mate. Until yesterday, I was definitely going, and I was 100% I was going to go there. Oh, do you know what? If it's a day like today, I'll finish work a bit early. I'll get over there in the sunshine, have a couple of beers in the sunshine, mate, and then I'll watch a bit of football. If it's not quite as nice a day, I can see myself swerving it and staying indoors, mate. But we'll see.
Brilliant. Great. Thanks, Frankie. Thanks, Ian. We'll catch up soon. Take care.
See you later.
Cheers.
later,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye. Bye. Bye.